Okay, welcome to this Polaris Bushcraft instructional video on fire by friction. Forgive the mobile phone in the corner, but that allows me to see what the GoPro sees, so I can make sure that you guys get a full view of what's going on. So we're looking at friction fire lighting via the bow drill method. With any type of fire lighting, the important thing is the preparation. So as you can see, we've broken down our firewood and we have got different sizes of wood, descending from reasonably chunky down to quite thin, and then very fine twig bundles over here by the fire. The twig bundles should be really small, preferably as thin as a match, which as I'm sure you can see they are. So they should light nice and easily from our natural tinder. The natural tinder here is mostly goosegrass with a little bit of jack by the hedge, which we just gathered on a footpath nearby. So onto the bow drill set itself. So for this we have got a drill, and as you can see it's been warmed up and just been bedded in. So blunt at one end for maximum friction, pointy at the other end for minimum friction. Now when you are using this method, you'll find the top wears down quite quickly. Try and leave the little hardened blackened tip, so make it look like a pencil when you repoint it, because that little bit there has been heat hardened and it will make it a little bit more durable. We've also got the hearth board. We've taken, roughly speaking, 1/8 of a slice out of the charred circle that we've made when we've bedded the drill in, and we've made sure that that runs right to the middle of the circle. And this little notch here is going to be where our ember collects. We've also got something underneath, an ember pan, in this case a little bit of birch bark, just so that we can actually carry the ember once we've created it. The bow has got a little bit of a curve in it. It can be a straight stick. Some people like quite a lot of curve. Personally, I find you know, so long as it's not ridiculously bent, it's okay. If it's too bent, it starts to weigh down on the outside of the curve and it makes the technique a little bit more awkward. So this is reasonably ideal. We've then got a piece of hornbeam, which is a good hardwood to use as our bearing block, and this is what we'll use to apply pressure down on the drill whilst we're actually drilling away. When we need to lift the hearth board away, once we've got our ember, we will need to support the ember pile to stop it from collapsing. So it's a good idea to have a stick or your knife close to hand, so that once you've generated the ember, you can lift the hearth board away. At that point, you then need to really not rush. You'll possibly be out of breath, but even if you're not, it's a good idea to just wait until you can see a good visible glow in the pile of dust. It's a lot less likely to collapse if you wait for that before you try and move it. I think personally that's probably to do with what resins there are in the dust heating up and holding it all together, because obviously if it collapses flat you're going to lose the oxygen in there and the ember will extinguish itself. So thinking of the bow as a D, the drill needs to come up through the string and twist over the top. When you're holding the bow, it's a good idea to have fingers on the string, so if the string starts to slip you can adjust the tension. Get your foot in on the hearth board as close as you can to the drill. Get the drill in position, ember pan on top, bearing block on top, and we want a nice straight line from the ember pan all the way up through the drill and through the bearing block, and to try and get your chest over it as best you can. Once you start drilling, you want to build up pace gradually. You don't want to go hell for leather straight away or you'll get worn out before you get your ember. So we'll build up gradually, and then once we start to see some smoke, we'll build the pace a little bit, and we'll be looking for the ember appearing in the notch above the ember pan. So let's begin. Bit of smoke, bit more pace. Try and use all the string's length. There we have our ember. Now we just want to pick it up and pause. What we want here is for this to oxygenate but don't try blowing on it because you'll blow it out. As you can hear, I'm a little out of breath, so it's a good moment to catch your breath. And I'm just moving it to and fro. I'm not going to blow on it, because if I do, I'll blow too hard and I'll blow the whole ember off. And what I want is a glow, which is just, there we go, just starting to appear. Hopefully you can see that. And once we've got that nice glow, then we can take the risk of transferring it without losing it. Now, if you've used a bit of wood and there's grain on the wood, you need to go with the grain, otherwise again you can cause the pile of dust to collapse. With the birch bark there's a slight bit of grain from the lenticels, but you could probably go either way, but I'm going to ease it off using my knife. Very gently. Put the knife away nice and safely. And if you've done a good job, then your tinder bundle will be like a bird's nest with a hollow in the middle. Someone once described this to me as like trying to hold a butterfly in your hands. You don't want to squash it, but you've got to keep the tinder in contact with the ember and not let it escape. Oh, it's keen to go, this one. I'm trying to hold it where the camera can see. Always try and hold it up, because then the heat, obviously thinking thermal columns, the heat rises. Lovely, there we go. So now what we want to do is get our twigs on there quickly. Nice tight bundles. Get them crossed over in the flame and support the twigs. We don't want them to squash the flame out. After all, if you've ever seen people putting out a bushfire, they're using bests and brooms to beat the wood, beat the fire out. So if we're too heavy-handed, we can soon lose it. It's a good idea to always have a third bundle of nice thin twigs ready. I'm not going to need them, so I can save those for another time. And now I can start to build up a bit of a crisscross pattern, because this will give stability to the structure of the fire and allow me to get more wood on. If this wood was really damp, then it'd be very important to have the opportunity to get the wood on as soon as possible so it can start to dry out before it has to take over as the main fuel. So as you can see, I'm putting the sticks on 90 degrees opposed to each other. Part of the reason for the preparation is to ensure all your fuel's about the same length, preferably at least 30 centimetres, because that gives you enough to be able to hold the end of the sticks and place them into the thermal column without actually burning your fingers. Now we can move on to the third size of fuel and repeat the process. One thing I didn't mention is when you're blowing the ember, it's important to blow long, not hard, and as it starts to smoke, if you can get the wind on the back of your neck, that'll take the smoke away from you and you won't end up inhaling a lungful just as you're trying to gently blow it into flame. And as you can see, as this wood's going on, it's getting plenty of opportunity to be dried out. We've got a nice vigorous oxygen supply and a nice hot start to our fire. So common problems with the bow drill technique is allowing the bearing block to move, which means the drill will move around on the hearthboard, and very soon your nice circle will become an oval and you won't have continual contact. That will cause you to lose heat and cause you to struggle to get your ember. The other thing is to have too much friction going on in the bearing blocks. If you're not successful first time, keep checking, keep repointing the drill. You don't want to be fighting friction at the wrong end. You want the minimum friction at the top. The other thing that people tend to do is to move their arm in a bit of a, like the Mary Rose ride at an amusement park, in a kind of swinging action, which causes the string to rise up the drill and trap at the top and get stopped. So try and keep the bow moving nice and level with the horizontal with the ground, as it were. And as you can see, a nice hot start to the fire in a couple of minutes because of good preparation and planning to begin with. Thank you very much.